Ready.
All right, welcome to Senate Judiciary. We have 3 bills for our consideration today. We have members that are serving on other committees and presenting bills in front of other committees. So there's going to be some of us going in and out throughout the afternoon. So we'll do our best to keep a quorum and move these bills through the process. Pierre, go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Senator Kriegel.
Here.
Senator Crum.
Excused.
Senator Hicks.
Excused.
Senator Kolb.
Present.
Chairman Olson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. The first bill for our consideration is Senate Joint Resolution 5, Convention of States. Senator Driscoll, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Olson Committee. I bring you Senate Journal 5, Convention of States. I'm not going to take very long. You guys are a busy committee with lots of stuff in front of you. This is an old topic we've had in front of the Senate numerous times. It's passed the Senate numerous times. Folks, this is a true Wyoming bill. I'm going to just go to the kind of the guts of it. The federal government doesn't quit spending and they don't quit trying to regulate us. And this is the federal government set up when they did the Constitution. They set it up and they left one area in case things got totally out of control for us to do it. And that's the Article 5 convention. And what we're trying to do is we're limited to 3 topics on it. They are imposing fiscal restraint on the federal government, reducing power and jurisdiction of the federal government, limiting the terms of office for federal officials in Congress. Things we talk about every single day in the Senate that everybody has a hard time with and nobody knows how to deal with. And I'm going to leave you with the example I've left on it. You know, we're $39 trillion in debt today, and everybody admits there's not a person out there that doesn't admit it's a problem. And the argument is, what do you do about it? And they say, well, what happens if things go wrong with Convention of States? And my example is, and you're going to hear it on the floor of the Senate, is you're in an airplane and the pilot has a heart attack and he's dead and the plane's heading towards the ground. Do you go back and buckle up your seatbelt and say, I hope we all survive, or you try to do something with the plane? And that's exactly what this is inaction is a guarantee that we're going to have a disaster in the United States. With that, I'd stand for questions. I'm not even going to go any further. I'll turn it over to Senator Larson.
All right, we'll see if the committee has any questions for Senator Driscoll. Senator Larson, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll be brief too. I just want to reiterate a little bit that Senator Driscoll said, $39 trillion in debt, 39 million. Don't even know what that number is. I do want to mention that there is a backup, once if we do bring an amendment, it's 38 states that have to approve that. And so if something did come out that wasn't what we wanted, it's not going to go anywhere. Just takes 13 different houses of both in the nation to say, no, we're not even going to talk about it. So I just want to be here for support, and if you have questions.
Senator Larson, remind me how many states have adopted this legislation?
As far as I know, I think there's 20, and I'm sure I have somebody in the back who could correct that. I think Kansas just did pass it, is what I understand. Correct. So we're at 20. I don't know if they're actually counting the what do they call it when you have you bring a proposal that is open for any convention.
Oh, just an Article 5 convention.
Yeah, on any topic. I don't think those are included in that. I would have to get some backup back here.
Mr. Chairman, it's in play in a number of other states as well. It's not just Kansas. There's multiple other states it's in play. I think that the world's starting to realize, including the banking industry, that it's not sustainable where we're at. Something has to happen, and it's pretty obvious at this point. Congress is not going to act on their own. It's going to take something to get them there.
Senator Larson.
Couple more, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And we all need to realize that Congress could do this every day. Sure. They just need to make an amendment, 2/3 of them, and we could send it out. And that's how it's been done. It's never been finished by the states bringing up proposals. I do want to make sure everyone knows that the balanced budget amendment type, we met that requirement in 1979 We lost it for a bit. We met that requirement again in 2017 with more than 34 states. So it's really sad that our Congress won't do their job. And all their job is to set a time and a place. And I hope we go to the Supreme Court and have somebody declare that they need to make that.
Any questions for Senator Larson? Senator Kolb?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Larson, could you please explain the process? If there was quote unquote what people fear is a runaway convention or something, something came up within the convention that we did not send our folks out with the authority to approve, and explain to people the ratification process, if it was to go forward, and how would it work for the state of Wyoming?
Senator Larson?
Mr. Chairman, I was a sponsor of that, what do we call it? The Delegate Limitation Act, 2017, 18, 17. We put in the legislation that 3 from the Senate and 3 from the House would be chosen to go. The rules when they got there would be decided upon when they get there with all the other states. And it always has been a 1 state, 1 vote. And if they didn't keep a majority at the convention, then we would, it'd be done. So they have to have the majority to keep the convention going, and that all these small states are not going to vote on a 1 man, 1 vote. We wouldn't want California to control it all. So I don't know if that helps, but.
Senator Kolb, follow up?
Not so much. I'm trying to get to the point that is it true that when it goes to when to have a convention of states that it would come back to the state of Wyoming and it has to be approved by the House and Senate? Could you explain that process to be more clear?
You want to?
Senator
Yeah,
Driscoll?
Mr. Chairman, numerous. One, I'm gonna go back to 17. There's penalties involved if they don't follow the directions we give them, harsh penalties. So if they don't follow, actually, it's probably the only time I've ever seen a legislator can go to jail for something other than bribery, is if you don't follow, you don't do it. But once they've come up with it, it takes 38 states to ratify it. And our state, both the House and Senate, has to sign off on whatever deal was cut by our people to make it happen. Excuse me? If you're answered for me, answer me.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I thought it was 2/3. We need 2/3 approval in the House and Senate too.
It does. Both thanks.
I was just trying to get to that, to kind of.
I'm good at being led down the path.
Well, Senator Driscoll, I just want to make sure the people out in the audience and the people listening understand the process and the safeties behind that process, and hear it from you folks who are testifying, good senators, on what they are. That was kind of, didn't mean to ask a leading question, but I just want people to know if that's true or not.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Kolb, it's absolutely true, and it is safeguarded unbelievably. I've been down this path, and like I said, it's always hard when you go to a convention of any kind and you got people that, my belief, it goes back to the airplane example, is doing nothing is never the correct answer. To pray that things happen that cause damage either to your people, your state, or your country. And, it's an abdication of duty if you don't make a affirmative move to try to do something right. And the safeguards are in place. I have every faith in the world that our representative that would end up representing Wyoming would do it faithfully and unbelievably well. The rural states are the ones that are the bedrock of this movement and of the country. And my belief is the 38, the only way they're going to get 38 states to ratify it is we'll be treated fairly.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Crum.
Yeah, just a quick question. It's my understanding that the delegation, when it's selected, will be given 2 or 3 topics, and that is all they can talk about when they're there. They can't come up with a topic of their own or a topic somebody else gives. And if we get off topic, they pack up and come home.
Chairman
Senator
Olson,
Driscoll.
Senator Crum, I will bring the 17 bill, I believe it's 17 of Senator Larson's, because Wyoming is way ahead of most other states. We have in our statutes a sideboard that says you will do what we ask, because that's been a big fear is you send a guy like me, you get back there and Ogden goes, oh man, I'm having a good time with the guys from New York and California, and I'm going to vote with them. And if you come back, you're going to go to jail in Wyoming. It's very narrowly defined.
Anything to add, Senator Larson?
Just a little bit.
Yes,
The
go ahead.
secretary, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary of State's kind of the one that was supposed to be watching over the convention for our state and to make sure that no one gets off a topic what they are sent to talk about. So if they did, they're jerked right out of there and could be charged with a felony.
Any other questions, committee? All right, appreciate you both. Thank you. We'll move to public comment. I don't think there are any agencies wishing to testify on this bill. So I'll just go to general public comment. If you want to comment, just come on up and go ahead and fill up the chairs. Welcome.
Good.
We'll start with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Julie Baker, Volunteer State Director for Convention of States Action in Wyoming, and I live just outside of Hewlett in Senate District 1. So Senator Driscoll and Larson went over the process, so I won't belabor that point. But I did want to add that the operative words in Article 5 are proposed amendments. And so in other words, what we're saying is we want to get together with the other states, have a meeting and suggest some stuff, make some suggestions. And some of the critics will say it's too risky to have that meeting and suggest stuff. But the alternative is trusting the broken system to fix itself. And that hasn't worked for decades. Some of the claims that you might hear are, we don't follow the Constitution anyway, and so amendments won't work. But the truth is that we do follow the Constitution as interpreted by the Supreme Court and as expanded by the Supreme Court. And so that's exactly why some targeted amendments are required to, bring the original intent of the Constitution back in line. And the other thing is that history tells us that amendments actually are followed for about 100 years after they're ratified. If you go back and look at all the amendments, you can go back to, 1920. Me and a bunch of ladies in here can still vote. And that was over 100 years ago, that amendment. Another claim that you might hear is the Constitution was illegally adopted in the first place. But all one has to do is just read the commissions that were given to the gentlemen who were at the convention, 1787, and it's very clear that they all acted appropriately. And they also followed the ratification process that they agreed upon prior to the ratification of the Constitution. So they're unfounded claims. We have centuries of precedent on how a convention operates. So we know exactly how that works. And if we think about it, America's greatest successes, some of the greatest successes, such as the 1776 independence from Britain, they defied the naysayers. Disaster was predicted, but we got America. Or 1803, the Louisiana Purchase, for example, lots of people were fearing catastrophe and bringing up all the risks, but that secured our western frontier and it fueled our growth. So these are all daring decisions by courageous leaders. We have courageous leaders here. We know what the stakes are. The stakes are that we collapse financially. Those are some of the stakes. We get overregulated, which we already are. Term limits on federal officials, fiscal discipline, and reclaimed authority can restore federalism. I know Wyoming isn't afraid to have a meeting and suggest things. We've always stood for independence and courage, and I think we ought to honor that tradition. So I'd really encourage you to please vote yes on SJ5. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Baker? As always, we appreciate your testimony. Ms. Herman?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be against. I don't know if you want to do the two supporting statements and then me, or out of order.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. My name's Marguerite Herman, here for the League of Women Voters. And the League for about 20 years have had a formally adopted position opposing a convention of the states. And just briefly, our president at the time, Elizabeth McNamara, said we want an orderly representative process And we want to prevent special interests from dominating a constitutional convention. And specifically, the items that the league on a national level determined would have to be part of, and if a convention of states happened, there would have to assure those things being representative and orderly. Number one, the convention must be transparent and not conducted in secret. I think we can all agree on that. Representation at the convention must be based on a population rather than one state, one vote, and delegates should be elected rather than appointed. So that again would be the proportional representation and elected, not appointed. Voting at the convention must be by delegate, not by state, because states, if they have a handful of delegates, states have diverse views across from corner to corner for sectors. And so we would want their voice to represent that diversity. The convention must be limited to a specific topic. Only state resolutions on a single topic count when determining if a convention should be called. In other words, when they're counting it up and trying to create that critical mass, it should be a call on the same topic. The validity of state calls for an Article 5 constitutional convention should be determined by the most recent action of the states. And that doesn't apply to us. In other words, some states have rescinded it. So the rescission would be the most recent position. The bill and several of the bills that have come forward in past years do try to narrow the topic of it. It shall be only on balanced budget. And this one states 3 specific things. And as I understand it, the Convention of States, the individual states can come with directions and limits. And once you get there, the convention sets its own rules. And so good intentions we may think it's going to limit, but we have no guarantee what it's going to do when they get there. They'll set their own rules of how they're going to proceed and topics they're going to be allowed. And so I think one can take some comfort, but very little comfort from Wyoming saying, because I think that many other states will have other things to add and detract, things that are going to go on at it. And this bill, this resolution does call for one state, one vote, which I understand is in the interest of Wyoming. But again, a proportional representation is sort of the heartbeat of the League of Women Voters, and so that would be contrary to that. And just real briefly, a statement that the League of Women Voters was a signatory to in 2017. An Article 5 convention is a dangerous threat to the U.S. Constitution, our democracy, and our civil rights and liberties. There is no language in the U.S. Constitution to limit a convention to one issue. And there is reason to fear that a convention once called will be able to consider any amendments to the Constitution that the delegates want to consider. And again, I know the bill itself talks about limiting it to or protecting putting off limits, the Bill of Rights. But once again, once the convention convenes, it's who knows what they'll decide. There are also no guidelines or rules to govern a convention due to the lack of provisions in the Constitution and lack of historical precedent. It is unknown how delegates to a convention would be picked, what rules would be in place, what would happen in the case of legal disputes, what issues would be raised, how the American people would be represented, and how to limit the influence of special interests in a convention. And I know that in past years, I've been accused of being alarmist. Nevertheless, it is the League's position that any constitutional issue could be brought up for revision by convention. This includes civil rights, civil liberties, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, privacy rights, the guarantee of equal protection under law, the right to vote, immigration issues, and the right to counsel and a jury, among others. Basic separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers would be subject to revisions as well. A convention might not preserve the role of courts in protecting our constitutional rights. Even the supremacy of federal law and the Constitution over state laws could be called into doubt. And so I guess, which is again, the thing that the Constitution should be amended over time. And I think a lot of commentators recently said one of our problems is that it has been so hard to amend and keep current and respond to people's needs and misgivings. But currently there are only 2 ways to do it: Convention of States, and then the other method, which actually has been used, is where legislatures pass amendment, and then it wins support of 2/3 of the states. So and that is the preferred method currently among the two choices that the League of Women Voters supports. We just think that this is the wrong way to do it, just because of the uncertainties, the lack of rule, the lack of, however tightly we want to write our resolution, once it convenes, it's, who knows? And then the proportional representation piece, which is kind of, one of our founding principles. And so, we oppose it. I understand the desire of people to change the Constitution, and it's a legitimate desire. This, we think, is it's too open. It has a lot of potential to do harm. And that's all. I will answer questions if you have them, but I tried to get through that pretty fast.
Committee questions for Ms. Herman? All right, thank you. You're up next.
Chairman Olson and committee members, thank you for this opportunity to testify. I am Stephen Manini, a retired physician of 42 years and served 9 years as a major in the Army Reserve Medical Corps. I have lived in Cody for 33 years, Senate District number 20. I'm here today to support Wyoming's participation in a convention of states under Article 5 of the United States Constitution. Wyoming was founded on independence, local control, and fiscal responsibility. Yet decisions made in Washington, D.C., especially in land management, energy, and healthcare, often ignore our rural realities and Wyoming values. As a physician, I saw federal healthcare mandates increase costs, reduce flexibility, and interfere with doctor-patient decisions that belong at the local level. The founders provided the second clause of Article 5 precisely for this kind of federal overreach, a lawful and peaceful process for states to propose amendments when Congress fails to restrain itself. A convention of states is not a rewrite of the Constitution. It is a limited, temporary gathering for proposing amendments. Concerns that the convention might exceed its authority or a runaway convention are unfounded. Verifiable truth demonstrates the states control their delegates. The convention is bound by the language of the applications, and any proposed amendments require ratification by 38 states. All these are strong, multi-layered safeguards. This is not a partisan effort. It is about restoring constitutional balance of power and protecting Wyoming's sovereignty. I respectfully urge this committee to support SJ 5, the Convention of States resolution. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? All right, we appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Welcome to Senate Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation. As per my members' policy, sitting in support of this joint resolution. Two areas. One point I want to make, it's been mentioned that changing the U.S. Constitution and the Wyoming Constitution is difficult. It should be. That's a serious decision. So we've been given this tool that we should utilize. The overreach of the federal government on resource management, as was mentioned, has cost us thousands of jobs and millions of dollars of revenue. I look at what's happened to the timber industry in Wyoming. It's dwindled dramatically. We're down to, I believe, 3 mills that are operating in Wyoming, where we used to have close to 20. As far as the fiscal restraint, when interest on your debt is one of the highest expenditures the federal government has, that's not a good business practice. I think that's affecting what we're paying as interest rates. And as far as we have a balanced budget, but we're relying on borrowing to make that up. And the only two options you have is to either reduce expenses or increase revenue, or you can do both. My organization would appreciate that instead of increasing revenue, taxes and fees, that we reduce expenditures. With that, Mr. Chairman, sitting in support of this resolution. I would take any questions you or the committee may have for me.
Questions for Mr. Moline? All right,
Thank
thank you. Any other testimony in the room? Before we go online, we're gonna go online. I've got several people signed up. I'm not sure who's actually there, though. Let's go ahead and let Eldon in. Welcome, Mr. Stahl.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Eldon Stahl from Evanston, Wyoming. I'm opposed to SJ5. A lot of things to cover. One, Wyoming has an application on the books from 2017 for an Article 5 constitutional convention asking for a federal balanced budget amendment. That subject would presumably be covered in this resolution under a more broad fiscal restraints category. So, is SJ5 redundant, asking for a second convention, or trying to expand the agenda of a single convention? Two, if the legislature can't agree why it wants a constitutional convention, and many other states can't either, why should we expect the state delegations to such a convention to limit the convention agenda? Now, if you say state law would limit delegates, how exactly do you expect to exercise jurisdiction on a crime committed in all probability at a convention held outside Wyoming? And if you can enact penalties, isn't the damage already done? Aren't the votes already counted? Also, shouldn't we at least consider the reservations held by James Madison, father of the Constitution, about the wording of Article 5? For example, from his 1787 convention notes, September 10th, quote, Mr. Madison remarked on the vagueness of the terms, call a convention for the purpose. How was a convention to be formed? By what rule? Decide. What the force of its acts? End quote. And then September 15th, he had reservations again. Quote, difficulties might arise as to the form, the quorum, etc., which in constitutional regulations ought to be as much as possible avoided. But proponents will tell you such concerns were dreamed up by 20th century progressives, and the founders knew exactly how a convention would work. Well, if so, why did the father of the Constitution not know the answer to that question? Why did he have such concerns? Now, somebody said, Congress is a constitutional convention all the time. Well, you know, with Congress, it's much different. We have many, many of these questions answered. For example, you know who your congressman is, how long their terms are, how they voted, when they're going to be in session, how they're paid, on and on. We know none of those things about delegates to a constitutional convention. Somebody mentioned, hey, they thought we met the threshold back in 1979 for a convention, and Congress has been cheating us out of that. Well, you know, that same group of people back in 2017 that pushed for a convention in the name of a balanced budget amendment, now they're pushing for suing Congress, getting state attorneys general to join together to get the Supreme Court to force Congress to call a convention. And they're claiming that not only, you know, contrary to what they previously claimed, that you had to have similarly worded stuff about, say, a convention for a balanced budget amendment. Now they're saying, oh, we can lump things together like on the Bill of Rights, on avoiding civil war, on direct election of U.S. senators. And for some reason, in their mind, Congress is cheating us out of a constitutional convention, and we need to have, in their own model resolution says it would cover not just a balanced budget amendment, but any unlimited convention. So they're basically getting rid of all pretenses in this sense. Now, applying for a convention isn't just suggesting things, okay, or allowing that. A convention proposes things that can actually become part of the U.S. Constitution. This is, when you apply for a convention, it's like taking the safety off of your firearm. It's not an inconsequential thing. Basic gun safety says never do that unless you have something that you intend to shoot in your sights and you're ready to pull the trigger. So we shouldn't downplay the consequences of that. Now, proponents also like to say, oh, it wasn't a runaway convention in 1787. You know, all you have to do is go to the National Archives website and look up, and it's very clear. They went in to the 1787 convention with the intent to revise the Articles of Confederation, our first constitution, and then they emerged with a new proposed constitution. I'd like to say, oh, we could never have a bad amendment come out. I guess we like to forget the 16th, 17th, and 18th amendments, the income tax, losing state sovereignty, and prohibition. And the first two of those were ratified by the Wyoming legislature. So I don't think we should get fooled again. They say, oh, it only takes 13 states to stop a bad amendment. Well, basic math also tells us that it takes only 13 states to stop a good amendment. So there's a two-edged sword there. They like to, I guess, not tell you the other side of the story. So I would say with this particular resolution, for the 11th time in 12 years, Mr. Chairman, please vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stahl. Any questions, committee? All right, we appreciate your testimony. Was there any other testimony online? All right, I will go ahead and close public testimony on this Senate file. Committee, what is your pleasure?
Move the bill.
It's been-
Joint resolution.
Yes, moved by Senator Hicks,
Second.
seconded by Senator Kolb. Are there any amendments? Any discussion to this Senate joint resolution?
Call for the question.
All right. Pierre, will you do a roll call vote on Senate Joint Resolution 5?
This is a roll call vote on Senate Joint Resolution 5. Senator Crago,
He left an aye vote.
Senator Crum,
Aye.
Senator Hicks,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Chairman Olson,
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, oh, no, Senator Driscoll already ran away, but he'll be ready. Okay. Thanks, everyone, if you came here for that legislation, we appreciate you joining us. The next file for our consideration is Senate File 105, Real Estate Brokers' Duties and Disclosure Amendments. Welcome, Senator Jones, to Senate Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. This bill pertains to real estate brokers and salespersons. It amends the definition of a customer to a person who has expressed an interest in buying, selling, or leasing real estate, or who attends a showing of real estate without any agency relationship or a party to a real estate transaction who has established no intermediary or agency relationship with any licensee involved in the transaction. It also adds under the relationship disclosures that during initial house showings or prior to entering into any written agreement with a buyer or seller, that a customer shall not be required to sign any legal written agency agreement to view or tour real estate during open or initial house showings. At this point, a customer is not afforded any confidentiality in any communications with the licensee. There is a written disclosure that describes the 3 ways a real estate broker or salesperson can work with a potential buyer or seller. This disclosure has a signature line for the buyer and or seller to acknowledge receipt of the disclosure. If the buyer or seller does not want to sign the document, then the broker or salesperson may document the refusal, or they can continue with the transaction by providing services to them as a customer. An agency disclosure provided to the buyer or seller, even without a signature, meets the disclosure requirements for a customer. That's pretty much the bill. I think Lori is going to help out a little bit with the why we need this bill.
I was literally just getting ready to ask that question. What is the purpose of this bill? What does it
Mr.
do?
Chairman, Lori Erbakite with the Wyoming Realtors. There was a settlement between the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors a couple years ago that dealt with buyer's agency or the lack thereof in some states. And we believe that we have always been doing it correctly since 1998 when we passed our agency legislation. In fact, after the settlement, I received phone calls from several states asking for our copy of our statute because we did do it right. However, in the fine print, and when the attorneys all got together and discussed it, they believe that we do not require customers to sign anything, but we don't specifically say that in the statute. So evidently, in order for us to be to the letter in compliance with the settlement agreement between the DOJ and NAR, we have to have language in our statute that says they do not have to sign. And that's what this bill does. And that's all we're trying to do is protect the customer. They don't have to sign anything if they don't want to. They can be a customer and we can go show them property and we can drive them all over the county and spend all our gas money. And that is absolutely fine. So it's a Customer Protection Act and it helps us, stay in compliance with the settlement agreement.
So a customer, there's a couple of different options to define a customer. The middle option is if you attend a showing of real estate without any agency relationship, you're a customer. And then if we go over to page 3, it says that a customer, so let's assume that it's a person who has arrived at a showing and they don't have an agency relationship, then they cannot be required to sign any legal written agency agreement to view or tour or take a showing. That makes sense. That's fine. But let's say a customer could also be a party. Could a customer be a person who does have an agency agreement, or do they become something other than a customer once they have an agency agreement?
Mr. Chairman, when they sign an agency agreement, whether it be a seller's agreement or a seller's listing or a buyer's agency agreement, they become a client.
Okay.
And that is specified in our license law.
Okay.
They are a client. Customers are ones without an agency agreement.
All right. That
And
makes
should
sense.
not have to sign anything. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. I understand now. Questions for Ms. Erbakite? Senator Kolb, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so I guess if I understand this right, there has been no court ruling. You're just trying to get ahead of this. I'm just trying to understand how this came about beyond what you just said. Like, what's, could you give an example? I mean, you gave an example, I guess I heard one, but I don't get how I mean, this is the first shot at trying to do something like this in the state of Wyoming or locally, or do any other states have model legislation that's similar to this?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Erbakite.
Senator Kolb. So this came out of a lawsuit from the Department of Justice against the National Association of Realtors. And NAR was found to be, I guess, liable for whatever bad things had been claimed in there. And so instead of appealing it, there was a settlement agreement between the Department of Justice and NAR, and this was a couple of years ago. Since then, many states have been scrambling to copy our legislation and add that language that they absolutely do not have to sign anything. That was the only thing that was missing in our language. So yeah, we're trying to get on top of it. There have been some questions about whether or not customers do need to sign something and from our members. And so we just want to be real clear, not only to our members, but to the public and to all licensees that customers do not have to sign anything. And that puts us in compliance with the settlement agreement.
So you said there's been some questions amongst your members. Are there any instances of any of your members requiring the customer to sign an agreement before they get to view the house?
Mr. Chair, I unfortunately have heard such rumors, but I don't know it for a fact.
Okay. But by and large, it's been the practice of agents and brokers in
Correct.
Wyoming not to require it.
Absolutely.
So we're just codifying the practice. Senator Hicks,
So is it possible to be a client and a customer both?
Mr. Urquhart.
Mr. Chairman, not with the same agency, not with the same agent. If you sign a listing agreement, whether it's a buyer's listing or a seller's listing, you are now a client. You can't be a customer with that same agency.
So that's what
Senator.
I was trying to get at, that if I'm a client, then we're looking at, but if I want to go out and look at something else on my own, I'm not obligated to have to go through you.
And again, Mr.
Let-
Chairman, that would depend on what kind of agreement you have signed.
Senator Colton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's fully disclosed to the potential customer client.
Mr. Chairman, absolutely fully disclosed before any significant conversations or transactions. All licensees are required to provide that agency disclosure. And that was passed, I think in 98, literally in statute, it says what font it has to be in. We don't know small print. It has to be in, I think, a 12 font or something. So absolutely.
Calm down there, Senator Hicks. I'm just reading this. I'm looking at page 4, subsection E. We've covered the other pages in language. I just want to take a look at this. Licensee working with a buyer or seller who is a customer shall provide the customer agency disclosure. An agency disclosure provided under this subsection shall be sufficient to satisfy any documentation or disclosure requirement for the formation or establishment of an agency relationship. So what's that doing?
Mr. Chairman, honestly, I don't know that that language is totally necessary. I think
Yeah.
it's just reiterating that there will be a disclosure, even if it is a customer.
Just making it extra clear, okay?
Right.
All right. Committee, any other questions? No? All right. Thank you, Senator Jones. Thank you, Mr. Burkett. Do we have any agency testimony on this bill? Or any public testimony?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Nick Barker, and I'm the Executive Director for the Wyoming Real Estate Commission and Certified Appraiser Board. The commission has reviewed the bill, and from a regulatory standpoint, the agency can implement the bill as adopted. There's no concerns there. The proposed changes do primarily affect disclosure, the timing of it, and the statutory definition of customer. It doesn't materially alter the commission's authority or enforcement. Again, should the bill pass, the commission would evaluate whether conforming rule updates or guidance would be necessary, and also to ensure consistent application amongst our licensees altogether. Again, I don't think it's anything controversial at all, but I'm just here to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Mr. Barker, under that subsection E paragraph, I don't know enough about how your agency functions, but do you provide model language for an agency disclosure, or do you approve a uniform agency disclosure? Do you have what was your role with forms?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, no, we have no say really in any of the forms, and we do not provide model language.
So what is your role in this legislation? You said you'd be able to you'd be able to function with it, but I don't understand what your role is.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, our role is to govern our licensees. Ultimately, we would be the ones enforcing this new language.
So if somebody did require a customer to sign an agency, sign an agency document before a showing, you would be the one who would hold that agent accountable for violating the new subsection that's in this law.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay. All
I
right.
apologize, it wasn't clear.
That's all right. Any other questions for Mr. Baker? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Barker, sorry. Any other public testimony? Do we have any testimony online? All right, we'll close public testimony. Senator Hicks wanted to move this bill.
Take a motion.
I would.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, for adoption of this file.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Hicks and seconded by Senator Crum. Any discussion on this bill or amendments to this bill? Senator
Mr.
Crum?
Chairman, I think we heard testimony that really on page 4, line 11 through 14, really we don't need. And so I guess just to keep it simple and clean up the statutes, I'd move to delete lines. I move an amendment to delete line 11 through 14, page 4.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think you'd want to, just a suggestion to the bringer of the amendment would be from line 6 through 14.
Well, yeah, that would be deleting
doesn't
existing
matter.
statute. 6 through 10 is
It's just
existing.
line-
Yeah,
It'll be 11 through 14.
Yeah,
11 through 14, yes, sir.
we don't want to delete E.
No.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this amendment? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I think that's pretty clear. A licensee working with a buyer or seller who is a customer shall provide the customer an agency disclosure.
Yep.
It's pretty straightforward. Okay, will you please do a roll call vote, Pierre, on Senate File 105?
This is a roll call vote on Senate File 105 as amended. Senator Crago,
He voted aye.
Senator Crum,
All right,
Senator Hicks,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Chairman Olson.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, thank you. There you go, Senator Jones. You are welcome. All right, we have one more Senate file here, folks. Little Senate file called Senate File 111, the Select Committee on Gaming, Senator Kolb.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give a shot at explaining this. This bill sets up a permanent home for a committee on gaming. And I guess the first question is why? Well, we're dealing with really a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it hasn't had a home. The gaming questions have been bouncing around between committees for as long as I think they've been the question about what to do with them. And this will give a place for a permanent home to have discussions and then to sponsor bills during obviously in the interim in this case, to address the issues that have frankly just getting larger and larger every year. We have a multitude of different rules with gaming. There's a lack of uniformity with the rules. And I think it's really evolved to the point that this is something that I brought forth as a proposal to create a permanent home for gaming. It'll be comprised of 3 House members, 3 Senate members. We worked this during the interim for a task force and had great success. I think we've proven we can do things that we need to do, bring forth legislation, the Industry Management Council, that starts to address some of these issues. I just think it's evolved to the point that we need a place, a home. We could argue that maybe there's too many of these committees, and there may be, but this committee is necessary because of the breadth and the impact to the state of Wyoming, the residents, the constituents that we all strive to represent. So that I think that's the reason for bringing this forward, Mr. Chairman. And I'll stand for any questions, and thank you for the opportunity to present it.
Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, so I always worried about why we take a nonpartisan issue and then interject partisan participation in these. And so why are we doing that? So if you go to page 2 and it says we have to apportion nearly as possible or reflect the percentage of elected officials from the majority and minority parties from both the Senate. It's my view that this is not a partisan issue, but we've injected partisan participation, and when in fact what we want is the 3 best people from both bodies in there. regardless of their party affiliation. So why is that in there?
Senator Cole.
Well, thank you for the question. It's in there because the LSO drafted it that way. I think that's up for debate. I do tend to agree this isn't about a partisan issue. It's about what's best for the state of Wyoming and having equal representation. And I don't have I don't know the background on why they thought it was necessary, Senator Hicks. But I would certainly welcome an amendment that would clarify that and remove that from this bill.
All right, thank you.
So Senator Kolb, and you're probably going to give me the same answer, but this is because this is how LSO drafted it, but it is inherently problematic that it has 6 members. That's an even number of members. So on a vote, I mean, you could end up in a tie. I mean, our committees are generally comprised of odd numbers, and select committees often sometimes have industry members or governor appointees that don't vote. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last subcommittee I served on and whether it had an even number or not.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. I think in this case, we might be better off having an even number between the House and Senate, frankly. I think that's probably frankly, it behooves us to have an equal number. I think that we have to get legislation through both bodies. And if we don't include the other side in an equal way, we probably shouldn't move that legislation forward. I think this gives us a chance to have I would say, a less crammed down type of committee. This gives us a chance to vet it out evenly between both sides. And I think that's just the way legislation, in this particular case especially, has to move forward, because we need to get buy-in from both sides. I wouldn't want it. I mean, we could do it like we do other committees. Once again, I assume that this type of committee would be formulated with this combination of people, House, Senate. That was my assumption without doing further research on the reasons why they drafted it in this method. But I think, frankly, it's a good question, but I think I don't know why it's a bad idea to have equal members on both sides at this point. I'm open to a debate on that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, to your point, you could have 3 senators vote aye to sponsor legislation and 1 representative vote aye to sponsor legislation, 2 vote no, and the majority of the collective committee says, yes, let's sponsor a bill, but you really don't have the buy-in from the House because 2 voted no. I mean, normally that's adopted in the rules on whether it's a majority of the committee or not, but I guess, did you give any thought to maybe making that statutory?
I did not give it any thought, Mr. Chairman.
Because we could do that. We could require that it have a majority of both bodies.
We could. That would be fine. I think that would be.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hicks.
If I can weigh in,
Yes.
many of our select committees are proportioned equally. So select water, 6 members from the House, 6 members from the Senate. Now, the Select Committee on Capital Finance has balanced membership on both sides. And so it's not unusual. I mean, those committees have been in place for a long, long time. And again, I don't see, because of the issue that we're grappling with, if it's gridlocked on membership, but they function just as well as the standing committees and sometimes better with a balanced membership. So it's not unprecedented. Like I said, both of those, and I don't know how many select committees, but many of them are balanced, both House and Senate. So it's not out of the norm.
Do the select committees have any special language on what it takes to sponsor legislation? Or is that just left up to rule?
No, Mr. Chairman. And so on that issue, so this is where we would come in. Some select committees have to have standing committees sponsor legislation. Some committees, like Select Water, can sponsor cap fin consent, but when those select water committees come into the session, they go to the home committee, standing committee, which is the Agriculture, Public Lands and Water Resources Committee. So we may want to draft that if in fact, either they can sponsor their own committee, whether they can sponsor legislation or which committee that they would be under for that. Would probably be appropriate.
This bill does say that they can sponsor legislation.
Yeah.
But it would go to a standing committee.
It will still come to a standing committee.
And you could choose that standing committee. I know on the blockchain committee, it's in statute that any banking bill has to go through minerals.
Well, I think in this case, say Management Council, but we'd be able to sponsor it. The problem we run into with this topic is the breadth of the topic. And then we get into another standing committee and they just don't have any idea what happened. Even when they sponsored us, they still don't know what happened. That's the problem with that idea, is that we basically have a rendition of the entire summer on how we got to where we're at, because of course we like to talk a lot as legislators and ask.
So, Mr. Chairman, if that's the safeguard you put in, you just say the committee can sponsor their legislation. It's still going to get assigned to a standing committee regardless.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's to that question, I think that gets us further than we are now. Right now, we're just kind of floating around like the ship of unwanted people when it comes to a topic that's worth billions to our state, and a large issue for the state of Wyoming and what people's perception of it is. I'm all right with either way, but I think it definitely has to sponsor legislation.
It's in there.
Oh, I understand. The question was going to be able to sponsor it as a standalone or report to another committee, standing committee.
I'm hoping all of its legislation comes to the Judiciary Committee.
Oh, but we can certainly do that, Chairman Olson.
Mr. Chairman, I hope your wish comes true because I won't be here.
Fair.
What?
Any other questions for Senator Kolb? All right, let's get some public testimony. Any agencies wishing to testify on this bill?
Sure. We have the gaming commission.
Oh, very good. Who is with the Gaming Commission?
Mr.
All right, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Sarah Dorenzo, Deputy Policy Director for Governor Mark Gordon. I really appreciate the consideration of this bill to create a permanent home for gaming issues, not only with the Gaming Commission, but with Wyoming Lottery as well. Thank you, Senator Kolb, for bringing this forward. As you mentioned, gaming issues have moved from committee to committee, and it's been hard to really establish the depth of knowledge that's necessary to discuss and address some of the longstanding and emerging issues on our gaming landscape. Under this newly formed select committee, the members were able to focus very in depth on issues and offered a number of bills necessary to address them. I was grateful to work closely with the select committee, and the work that they did was extremely impactful and productive. But there's quite a lot more work to be done. Gaming is an ever-evolving landscape, and it's essential for the industry to be well-regulated for the protection of the wagering public, certainty with the laws for the Gaming Commission, and certainly for industry as well. So the governor's office is glad that you're considering this, and thanks for the opportunity to weigh in.
Any questions for the governor's office?
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to the Gaming Commission. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Nick Laramendi, Executive Director of the Wyoming Gaming Commission. My apologies for not being there in person. I had some conflicting scheduling arrangements today that I had to deal with. I just wanted to, kind of echo what Senator Kolb had said. In my tenure with the commission, we've gone from revenue to appropriations to TRW and back to appropriations. And in all of those instances, what we have found is, a lot of times those committees, they have so many other topics going on. Gaming doesn't really get the attention that it desperately needs. As Senator Kolb said, we're over $2 billion a year in wagering activity. Gaming is very complex. It's ever evolving, ever changing. And I think this would be a very good thing for the Gaming Commission as well, to where they can work with the standing committee and really help them understand the nuances of gaming and the changes in gaming. And I respect your time, and I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for the Gaming Commission? Thank you for joining us. Sorry you couldn't be here in person, but at least you're here.
My apologies. Thank you, sir.
All right, public comment. Any public comment? Okay. All right, we'll close public comment. Committee, what is your
Mr.
pleasure?
Chairman, I will enthusiastically move the bill.
All right. Senate File 111 has been moved by Senator Hicks
An enthusiastic second.
and
Mr.
seconded
Chairman.
by Senator Cole. All right. Any amendments to this bill?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
page 2, line 6. After Senate, strike the balance of line 6, line 7, line 8, line 9, and line 10 through the word party to the period of that sentence.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we would bring in a conforming amendment on line 15. So after House, strike the balance of that line, all of line 16, 17, 18, and on line 19 through the word party.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Senator Kolb. Is there any discussion on this amendment?
Oh, I guess I'll say
Senator
it.
Kolb?
The words
Go ahead.
I think it should not be a partisan issue. I think it was well stated that it should be a quality issue with the people that are capable or willing to do the job, which is always a tough thing because I think we all know it's a challenge to get, say, a particular person who fits that mold where they want to do it, they're capable of doing it, and they're the right party affiliation. I think it puts too many roadblocks up, and this certainly takes those roadblocks down.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that amendment has been adopted. Are there any other amendments to this bill? I just wanted to check one thing, Senator Kolb, was the effective date. Is it, it's gonna go into effect so that this interim, because it goes into effect immediately, so this interim would have a committee?
Well, that was the intent. Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
All right, that's perfect. All right, any other discussion on this bill? All right, Pierre, we do a roll call vote on Senate File 111.
This is a roll call vote on Senate File 111 as amended. Senator Crago,
He votes aye.
Senator Crum,
All right.
Senator Hicks,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Chairman Olson.
Aye.
5 ayes.
And that's it. That clears the desk. Thank you, committee. One more day of Senate files tomorrow, and then we'll start on House bills. We are adjourned.
We will just push back on the floor for that.
Oh, yeah.